This is a kind of late April wrap-up because I didn't have a chance to record it at the end of April, and then I had a ton of other videos that I had to post first. So welcome, this is my belated April wrap-up. As always, I will start off with my statistics from the month, and I will try to rush through them because I know not everyone is interested in them, and then I will get on to the books. I read 8 books in April, which added up to a total of 2,874 pages, which is less pages than I read in March, but more books, but whatever. As far as ratings go, I read 0 1-star books, which is great, 1 2-star book, which was not so great, 3 3-star books, 3 4-star books, and 1 5-star book, finally. I haven't read a 5-star book since I reread The City of Brass, so I'm really happy that this has happened to me. My average rating this month is 3.6, which is my highest average rating this year. I read 5 backlist books and 3 new releases, and as for the genres, I read 1 historical fiction book, 1 thriller book, 1 horror book, 1 paranormal book, 1 crime book, and 3 contemporaries. And I think those are all the stats I'm going to share this time, just because I'm not really sure what you guys are interested in. If there are any other statistics about my reading and even blogging and booktubing that you'd like me to include in my wrap-ups, then let me know. I was thinking about maybe incorporating some of my YouTube statistics because I like hearing about other people's, but let me know in the comments what you'd like to hear. So now onto the book. The first book I read and really enjoyed was The Tattoos of Auschwitz by Heather Morris. This is one of my 4-star books. It's obviously historical fiction about the tattooist of Auschwitz. It's about a guy called Lala, I think that's how you pronounce it, who was Jewish, also a real person. It's based around his life, although I think there might be some, I don't know, fictional elements in there. I'm not entirely sure. I just know that the author interviewed him a lot, and it's kind of a memoir, kind of fiction. Anyway, Lala was put in Auschwitz and he became the tattooist there. He put the numbers on the prisoner's wrist, and then he fell in love with a woman called Gita. It's about their love story and their experience at Auschwitz, and it was a very emotional and difficult read, but I did really enjoy it, particularly the author's note at the end, which isn't really like the actual story. I really appreciated the way she spoke about her research and everything that she put into this book. I thought that was quite powerful, really. For historical fiction, which is a genre I don't normally pick up, especially World War II historical fiction, I really enjoyed this. It was very easy to read, and yeah, I ended up enjoying it. There's not really much more to say. I then read A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. This is the 3rd book of his that I read, and I gave this one 4 stars. I didn't love it as much as The Cabin at the End of the World, but I did like it more than Disappearance at Devil's Rock. This is about 2 sisters, Marjorie and Mary. Marjorie is the older sister, Mary is the younger one, she's the main character, and their family. It jumps back and forth between Mary telling the story and flashbacks to when this story is actually happening. Basically, the Barrett family is struggling because Marjorie is either going through some typical teenage things and mental health problems, which aren't so typical, but you know, in addition to typical teenage things, or she's possessed and needs an exorcism. And the girl's father hires a priest, and he wants the priest to exorcise his daughter and, you know, release the demon so that she'll be cured. And because the family also need money, they decide to televise it, and it becomes, I think, an 8-episode TV show. I really enjoyed this book. I don't want to say too much about it because I feel like things that I could say might influence how you feel about the ending. I think you should know that I always really enjoy Paul Tremblay's endings to his books because they're always a bit more open than other authors, in that you're never really sure if it's real or if it's fantasy or paranormal. You could interpret it in so many different ways, and that's why I end up always really enjoying his books, apart from Disappearance at Devil's Rock because that wasn't as good, but I still really liked the ending of that one. This was really creepy, definitely his creepiest one yet, for different reasons than Cabin at the End of the World, in that it was to do with ghosts and possession and demons. I just really enjoyed it, and I would highly recommend it if you're in a horror mood. I then read 13 by Steve Kavanagh. This is the 3rd book in a crime series. I haven't read the other 2. You don't really need to. I went into this one not knowing anything about the main character, who is present in all 3 books. What got me and many other readers originally was the tagline, which is "The serial killer isn't on trial, he's on the jury." What I wasn't expecting was that the serial killer had a point of view, and I feel like this book could have been stronger if he hadn't had a point of view, if he was more of a mystery, and that would have been a bit more exciting, I think, because I really didn't enjoy being in the serial killer's head because I didn't think it added anything to the plot. So basically the main character is a lawyer. He's trying to get this famous person off. That is so not what I meant. It would be much easier if this book had a blurb, but it doesn't. Okay, so the main character is a lawyer. There's this famous person who is on trial for murder, but he didn't do it. So the lawyer is trying to convince the jury to come back with a not guilty verdict. The only problem is the serial killer who has been doing these murders that the famous person is being framed for is on this jury, and he's trying to convince the jury to find him guilty. And so it's kind of like a game of cat and mouse. There's a whole back and forth of things, and it was good. I enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars, but I didn't think it was as strong as it could have been, which is a shame because it sounded really thrilling and it kind of wasn't. It was just, you know, your typical crime book. It was good. I then read Girls on the Verge by Sharon Biggs Waller, and I heard about this over at Chelsea Dolling Reed's channel. She read it a couple of months ago. This is a YA contemporary. It's just over 200 pages and I read it in one afternoon. It's about a teenage girl who lives in Texas and she is struggling to get an abortion because no one will help her. I don't want to tell you the entire plot, but basically she explores different options, and the state of Texas and the people in her community make it really freaking difficult for her to have an abortion. And so she has to travel to Mexico in order to get a pill that will cause an abortion. And it's about her and her 2 friends and their support and their friendship. And I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I do wish it could have been longer. I feel like it would have been a lot stronger if I had had more time to get to know the main character. But I do think it covers a very important topic, and I guess you could say its own voices because the author also got an abortion when she was younger, and she knew the struggles that this teenager was going through because she went through them herself. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I would highly recommend it. It's a short book, so you'll probably fly through it if you do read it. And I guess it made me realise that the US is kind of fucked up. So there's that. And then there was the Kiss Quotients by Helen Huang, which I picked up on a whim because after Girls on the Verge I was in the mood for some more contemporary. This is adult romance. I gave it 3.5 stars. It's about a woman who has Asperger's syndrome, which means she is on the autism spectrum, and her mum tells her that she's ready for grandchildren and she should start, you know, preparing herself for that. So the main character freaks out and is like, I don't know how to do sex. And so she obviously hires a male escort to teach her how to do it. As you can expect from an adult romance, it turns into a relationship, and I thought it was really sweet and kind of adorable. I don't think it's the best book I've ever read, but I certainly enjoyed it and I really liked the steamy scenes. I don't really have any problems with it whatsoever. It was just a really cute book and I really enjoyed the autism rep. Main character is also racially ambiguous, which the author addresses herself as well, and the love interest Michael is Vietnamese American, in case, you know, that makes you want to read it. I then read a book that I got from the publisher in exchange for an honest review, and that was Missing Presumed Dead by Emma Berquist. I really enjoyed Emma's previous book, which is called Devils Unto Dust, and it's a post-apocalyptic zombie book set in the South, or it's more of a Western, I guess. And I really enjoyed that one, so I picked this one up, even though it is a paranormal book, and I don't normally read paranormal books anymore. I think Twilight and that whole phase kind of broke me. But I did end up enjoying this book. I gave it 3.5 stars as well. It's about a teenage girl who can, first of all, see and interact with ghosts, and secondly, can see people's deaths when she touches them. So someone is going around abducting and or killing teenage girls, and the main character wants to find out who is doing it. She becomes friends with one of the victims, who is now dead, and they actually get into a relationship, and it's a queer relationship. They're both girls, and I think the main character might identify as bisexual. She's certainly in relationships with both men and women in this book. I really enjoyed it. It was fast-paced. I have to say that I don't think it should have been as long as it was, because I feel like the plot dragged out a bit and there wasn't enough to keep it going, but I really enjoyed it and I would recommend it when it comes out in June. And then I read a 5-star book, and I'm so happy with myself because it finally happened. I finally enjoyed a book that's not The City of Brass. Not that I'm not enjoying books at the moment, but you know what I mean. And that was The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. This is kind of historical and really freaking hard to explain, so forgive me, I'm not very good at this. Basically, the main character wakes up and has absolutely no memories, and then he is told that he has to investigate the death of Evelyn Hardcastle, and to do so he has 24 hours in several different bodies. So he wakes up in his first body, has no clue what's going on. After his 24 hours are up in that body, he will then move on to the second body. Through this method, he will find out who killed Evelyn Hardcastle and or How to Stop the Murder. I think that's all I want to say about this book in terms of the plot, because I don't want to give anything away. It's thrilling and it was just brilliant, really. It was so well thought out, and you could tell that the author put so much planning and detail into this book, because things come up at the end that were mentioned in the beginning, and it's all timey-wimey, jumping about. I honestly can't recommend it enough. It was so well done. I'm really, really impressed. And I do kind of want to reread it to kind of get into it a bit more at the beginning, because to start with it's a bit confusing. I think upon a reread I would catch so many other clues, and I would know what's going on and probably get more out of it, I think. So I would highly recommend this one. Please pick it up. 5 stars, really, really good. And finally, the last book that I read in April was not a good one, unfortunately, and that is Again But Better by Christine Riccio. I've done a full review on this book. If you want to go and check it out, I will leave a link up there. I really didn't enjoy the book. I thought that the writing was poor, and the main character was definitely a self-insert, which irritates me because the publishers and the author should know that no one likes that. And I felt like there was a lot of missed potential, and there was cheating and abusive parents, and that was just not addressed ever. I didn't like it. I gave it 2 stars. I didn't hate the book, but I didn't like it at all either. So that's why it's got 2 stars instead of 1, in case you're wondering. Go and watch my review because I explain myself a lot better there. And those are the 8 books that I read in April. I'm a bit sad that I didn't get to 10 like I was aiming to do. I think 8 is still a decent number, and I'm really glad that I enjoyed most of them. So it was a really good reading month in my opinion. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will speak to you on my next one. Bye.